How are we doing, third graders? Third graders. This is an assignment for third graders. So second graders, you're more than willing to can watch if you would like, but this is something that we're going to be working on in third grade. Third graders, we've worked this year a little bit. Now you worked a ton last year with whoever your second grade teacher was with telling time, figuring out on a clock, 7 o'clock, 7:15, 7:20, and so on and so forth. And we were working a little bit before we went to distant learning here in our room about kind of just refreshing that. What we're going to learn now is something called elapsed time. And what elapsed time means is a length of time, kind of like adding and subtracting time. Now what's different about elapsed time is we can't just take two times on a clock, stack them like we would a normal addition and subtraction problem, and add or subtract away, because time doesn't work like that. Time doesn't keep going up like numbers do, because each hour stops. If I keep going around on my clock I have here, right now it's 7:55. It doesn't go 7:60. What happens? It goes to 8 o'clock. So that's why we can't add or subtract time like we would normally. So we have to look for another way. And the method I'm going to show you guys today is what I found to be the easiest way to do. And we're going to call it the Z method. The Z method. And I'll do this a couple different ways, give you a couple different examples of how we do this. Maybe start with an easier one, and then we'll work on even a harder one. So the first thing we got to do the Z method is draw a Z. And I'm going to draw a fairly big Z. Make sure we can see that on the camera. Looks okay. Now with our Z, we're going to write a couple things on there. I'm going to write start at the beginning so that I know. Excuse my sloppy writing as always. And at the end, I'm going to write end. So the things that we're going to want to put in here are always, we've got three parts that we're going to look at. We've got a straight, this diagonal, and another straight. Now the easy thing about this, or something that's easy to remember, is on both of our straights, I'm going to put M, I, N for minutes. And if my straights are minutes, I bet you can guess what my diagonal is going to be. You guessed it. It's going to be hours. I'm going to use another abbreviation for that, HR. I'm going to put an S, just in case we have more than one. So if I give you, we'll start again with an easier problem. Something like you start your distance learning at 10:30 in the morning. 10:30. All right, kind of uphill here. Hopefully you can see it. And you finish your distance learning at 1 in the afternoon. I'll write it right above 1 in the afternoon. How long did you spend on your distance learning? Now, some of you I know are real great timekeepers, could probably do this in your head, but again, they're going to get harder, so we want to learn the method, and we'll start with the easy one. Now, you're going to hear me talk about the term clean hour. When I talk about clean hour, I'm talking about 1 o'clock. A clean hour has 2 zeros behind it. 10:30 is not a clean hour, so when we look at our clock, again here, 8 o'clock is a clean hour. And then we don't get another clean hour till 9 o'clock. And 10, and so on and so forth, and you get it. Those are our clean hours that have 2 zeros behind it. So we always want from where we start to get to a clean hour. Now we can do this a couple different ways. You might know in your head, you might need to write it down. Now this you can do as a normal subtraction problem if you need to. If we're thinking our clock says we started distance learning at 10:30, that looks just like that. our next clean hour is going to be, well, if we're at 10 and some change here, it's 30. Our next clean hour is going to be 11. So we got to get to 11. So I'm just going to make a note of that. How many minutes from 10:30 to 11? Now we can do this a couple different ways. We can take a clock. We can go back to 10:30 and we can count all the way up. We might just know because we've talked about halves of hours in here and quarter hours and things like that. Or I can write it down. I can do 60 minutes in an hour minus the 30 that's already there and see how long it takes to get to this clean hour here. Now, I'm just going to use my clock since I have it. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So 30 minutes to get to my next clean hour. So now I'm at 11 o'clock. 30 minutes is going to get me there. Now I'm just going to think how many hours to get from 11 o'clock to our hour down here at the end, 1 o'clock. Now this is just easy counting, just like you've done since you were very young. If I'm at 11, only thing we have to remember is I don't do 13 o'clock, 14 o'clock, 15 o'clock. If I'm at 11, I go 12, then we circle on back to 1. 2 hours, right? 11, 11 to 12, 12 to 1. That's 2 hours. So I'm going to put that right on down here. 2 hours in my diagonal. And to keep a note, I'm going to then, with this one, it doesn't matter so much that it's now 1 o'clock. It would matter if this wasn't a clean hour, because we won't always end on a clean hour, because that doesn't happen in real life. But from 1 o'clock to 1 o'clock, trick question, but an easy question, how many minutes from 1 o'clock to 1 o'clock? Well, since we're talking about the same time, that's exactly 0 minutes. So now that I have all my information in here, and I know this gets a little scattered, but all I really need to look at now, once I'm done, is this area right here in my Z. I can get the rest out. I first want to make sure that I look at my minutes, just because if I add together and I get to 60, just like in regrouping, those 60 minutes are going to regroup to 1 hour. Now here, 30 plus 0 is just going to be 30, and then I have 2 hours. So my answer here, if I can extend my page just a little bit, hopefully, is going to be 2 hours. Use my abbreviations, and 30 minutes. That's how long it took you to do your distance learning. 2 hours and 30 minutes. All right. Hopefully you got a handle on that a little bit. I'm going to do another one here. Start with a fresh new page. I'm going to make my Z again here. And the better you get, the less you'll have to write because you'll know where things go. Now I'm going to abbreviate even a little bit more here just for my own sake. Instead of writing the whole thing start, I'm just going to write an S. And at the end, I'm just going to write an E. The less writing for me, the better. You can write as much as you want. Some of you that have much better handwriting than me, I would write more too. And then here, I'm going to remember minutes, hour, minutes. Now, if I were to give you the problem, I'm just going to kind of make it up in my head. I started cooking dinner at 5:10 in the evening. And dinner didn't get done. Took me a long time because I'm making something extravagant, something awesome for dinner. Dinner didn't get done cooking until 7:40. Now, things get a little harder because I don't have those same clean hours, but my steps are still the same. So from here to here, I need to get to that clean hour. So from 5:10, if I'm at 5 anywhere on the clock, whether it's 5 o'clock, 5:10, or somewhere in between, my next clean hour is going to be 6. Go from 5 to 6. That's just our basic counting. How many minutes from 5:10 to 6 o'clock? Again, I can count. Maybe this time I'll do a little side math here. I'll think 60 minutes in an hour. Subtract 10, because that's how many minutes have already passed. 0 minus 0 is 0. 6 minus 1 is 5. 50 minutes. Awesome. It's going to be 50 minutes to get me from 5:10 to 6. Now to get from 6 down to my hour down here, how many hours is that to go from 6 to 7 something? Hopefully in your head you're just thinking 1 hour to go from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock. And now, last time you didn't have to go anywhere, I've got to figure out how many more minutes to get from 7 o'clock to 7:40 at my end. Now, because we work to get to this clean hour, it's probably pretty easy for most of you to do in your head. If not, we just subtract 40 minus 0. Those are our minutes on the clock. 40 take away 0. That's going to be another 40 minutes. Now, here's where things are going to get a little bit tricky for you. Now, when I go to add my minutes, I'm going to extend my page again. I've got 50 minutes at the top. I've got 40 minutes at the bottom. When I add that together, I get 0, I get 90. Well, that's more than 60. So what I have to do is I've got to take my 60 and subtract, or my 90 and subtract 60. So that I can subtract an hour and add it to my hour at the very, very end. I'm going to get a 0. 9 minus 6 is 3 for 30. So I've got to remember, I had 1 hour, but I just subtracted another hour, so it actually took me 2 hours. And what was left over? 30 minutes. Elapsed time can be difficult, but if you use these methods, we'll talk about some other ways we can do it too. You'll get the hang of it in no time. One thing we got to make sure we do is practice, practice, practice. So look out for some assignments, some problems, some ways to practice getting better at telling elapsed time. Good luck, third graders. Thanks for listening.